Hello, everybody. This is Ron Klasko, and I'm very happy to be speaking with you today about a subject that's become of great importance to a lot of people, especially people who are obtaining citizenship in Grenada, and that is the possibility, once you're a Grenada citizen, of getting an E-2 visa to the United States. And my talk today will be telling you what some of the advantages of the E-2 visa are, and how you qualify. The E-2 visa has become particularly interesting to lots of people from countries around the world that do not have investment treaties with the US. Many of them were applying for EB-5 green cards, but with the increased investment amount for EB-5 going up to, in most cases, $1.8 million, and with the processing times often now 3 or 4 years, and with quota backlogs of up to 15 years in China and less in some other countries, some of the luster has been lost on EB-5, and many of the EB-5 applicants, or people who would otherwise be EB-5 applicants, have been looking to the E-2 visa. Now, if you're from over 80 countries in the world that have treaties with the US, you can go directly to applying for the E-2. But if you're from places like China and India and Vietnam and South Africa and Brazil and Russia and many other countries that don't have treaties, then you have to become a citizen of a country such as Grenada that has an investment treaty with the US in order to apply for the E-2 visa, which many people consider to be the best visa you can get to the United States. And in the last couple of years, we've done this successfully for many nationals of many different treaty countries. There are lots of advantages to the E-2 visa. It's a 5-year visa, longer than every other type of visa, and there's no limit to the number of extensions. It can be obtained not in years, but in months, and usually it's 2 months or less. It includes the investor and the spouse and the children under age 21, and very importantly, the children can study in public school, private school, university, complete flexibility there. And in some states, and this goes state by state, in-state tuition may be possible. Many investors in the US are not interested in living 100% of the time in the US. There are taxation issues. They may be taxed on worldwide income, and many investors want to live in the US a lesser period of time to avoid that, or just because they have businesses or family overseas. One of the big advantages of the E-2 visa is that you can live in the US 100% of the time, or way less than 50% of the time, as much or as little as you want. Another huge advantage is that the spouse of the E-2 investor can work anywhere he or she wants without employer sponsorship. That's a key issue. Some of our E-2 clients are interested in being the day-to-day manager of their business, and that's fine on an E-2, but it's not required. Others of our clients prefer to hire a management person or a management team to run the business, and that's also okay. And as we'll see in a couple of minutes, the E-2 investor can do what's called developing and directing the business, which basically means just overseeing the manager, which doesn't necessarily have to be on site. In today's world, another big advantage of the E-2 visa is that no application to the US Immigration Service is required. Unlike all the other working visa categories, the E-2 visa can be applied for directly at a US consulate. Also, unlike things like EB-5 or H-1B, which have very strict quotas, there's no limit to the number of people who can get an E-2 visa in any year. And for those who are interested in the green card, the amount that you invest for your E-2 visa can be used as a credit to the amount required for the EB-5. And many people on E-2 eventually do apply for green cards through EB-5. So with all of those advantages, it's important to know how you qualify for the E-2. So first of all, as we just mentioned, you have to be a citizen of a country that has an investment treaty with the US, and Grenada does. Secondly, now, once you are a citizen of Grenada, you must own at least 50%, anywhere from 50 to 100% of a business in order for that business to be considered a business under the Grenada Treaty. Now, the key to the E-2 is an investment, and you must make a substantial investment in a US business. Now, most people would assume that substantial is defined by an exact amount, and the big surprise is it's not. Unlike EB-5, which says you must have exactly 1.8 million, or in some cases 900,000, with the E-2, there's no definite amount of investment. And very often you're going to see investment amounts of $200, $150, $300,000 that qualify, but not always. The issue is proving in each case how much of an investment is necessary for that particular type of business to be successful. And we do this with an E-2 business plan. So if we're, for example, buying a franchise restaurant, it may be that 200,000 is plenty for that investment to be, that franchise to be successful. If we're investing in a manufacturing company, obviously 200,000 is not going to be sufficient for that type of business to be successful. There's a lot of flexibility on the type of business you can invest in. It can be a subsidiary of your overseas business. You can buy a franchise. You can buy 100% or 50% of an existing business. So there's a lot of flexibility there. There is a rule that says the business cannot be marginal. And basically what that means is that it can't be just a way for you to move to the US and earn a living for yourself. It is generally required to show that you're creating jobs for one or more people in addition to yourself. Just like with the investment amount, there's no exact amount of jobs that are required. Again, it has to do with the E-2 business plan showing how many jobs are necessary for this type of business to be successful. Going back to our franchise restaurant example, if the E-2 business plan shows that, well, other franchise restaurants of similar types that have been successful have had 5 employees, we would want to show that we plan on having 5 employees, but there is no exact amount. I mentioned earlier that the investor does not have to be the active day-to-day manager of the business. The requirement for the E-2 investor is that he or she develop and direct the business. So again, if you manage the business day-to-day, you qualify. However, you also qualify if you hire a manager or a management team and you oversee the manager. You oversee the manager by periodic phone calls or periodic meetings or periodic Zoom videos, et cetera, et cetera. You can't be completely passive, but you do not have to be involved in day-to-day management. As I mentioned earlier, the E-2 visa does not require an application to be filed by the at the US Immigration Service. The application can be filed directly at a US consulate. And another advantage of the E-2, and a big part of the job that I do in representing our E-2 visa clients, is choosing the best US consulate for that particular person at that particular time. So for Grenada, the US consulate in Barbados has jurisdiction over Grenada. And that is one of the choices that we have, which will be something we would recommend sometimes and maybe not others. The country of the original citizenship of the applicant is another choice. So for example, we've done many successful E-2 visa applications at the US consulate in Guangzhou, China, for our Chinese clients who become Grenada citizens. And in some countries, we think that's a good idea, and in other countries, perhaps we prefer something else. If our client has a residence in a country other than his citizenship, we would look to that country as a possible place. And if for whatever reason we think that none of those choices works well for our client, we really can identify a U.S. consulate in any country that's willing to handle the application, and that changes over time. Unlike with the other types of applications, with EB-5s or with L-1s or other types of applications, where the key thing is the immigration service approving, and the interview at the U.S. consulate is perhaps less important. With E-2, since there is no pre-approval, the interview at the U.S. consulate is critical. And again, our role as the lawyer for the E-2 is to make sure each of our clients is totally prepared for all of the questions that are going to be asked at the interview. And the good news is that we have successfully represented many E-2 applicants at many consulates. And we can never predict exactly what questions are going to be asked, but we have a pretty good idea. And so we engage in an in-depth preparation with our clients for the E-2 interview. So that's an overview of what you need to know about E-2 visas. And I will be happy to answer any questions that anyone may have. Thank you very much.